my studio today on the newest Christmas image that we just added to the store. Taking a little break from drawing and doing some crafting today. And while working on the night sky behind our Santa, I thought that this might be a technique that some of you maybe don't know about, or if you do know about it, that you just feel more comfortable trying it yourself if you saw someone else do it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to make the starry night sky, or you might even think of it as possibly even a snowy sky behind our Santa here. A couple of things before we get started. I'm not going to do the actual coloring for you. I think that you've seen a couple of the coloring videos that we've done. I will tell you that I started out with the B39 for the darkest color, and I laid that around the edges and farthest up in the sky. I then went to B26, then B97, then B34, and lastly, clear down by the horizon, B93. And the reason that I did my colors this way, in this order, with the lightest down at the bottom, is it kind of gives the impression that maybe the sun's just, you know, kind of coming around and getting ready to come up. And so I kind of like that gradation. I also used the colorless blender quite a bit and kind of drug it from the horizon line kind of out to, again, blend the colors as you would expect, but also kind of give it that washy look that I was looking for in the sky. So those are the Copic colors that I used. And now I'm ready to get started with the night sky that I was talking about. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I've actually printed off the one last stop image twice in the very same size. So the image that I'm working on is on the Cryogen white paper that we've talked about before that I like to work with. And then I've just made a little mask and cut out the area where I want this starry, splattery paint to go. So I don't have to worry about taping this down or getting terribly intricate with getting it right into all of the lines. I just want to give the effect of maybe some stars in the sky around Santa. And this would work on a couple of the other images that we have too. The Oh What a Night image. This would be a wonderful technique if you were doing kind of a night sky behind that fireworks scene. Here I have the Copic Opaque White. Really any paint, any white paint will probably work. Since I'm using Copic colors, I like to use this Copic White. If you haven't worked with it before, it's really good for the highlights that you do on your projects when you're coloring with Copics. It's also good for the little white highlights in the eyes of your projects. So now I've taken just a little bit of that and put it in the lid. And I've got a little bristle brush that I'm going to use. The bristle brush, it's a tongue twister, is going to make it easier for me to flick this paint onto the surface of my image. And whenever you're doing anything like this, I think that it's a good idea to try it out a little bit, just to kind of see how it's going to flick for you. So you can just get a piece of scratch paper, get a little bit of paint on it, and then flick the bristles toward your project. And you can see that it's not always perfect. Sometimes you get the little kind of more of a run of paint, but I find that the quicker little jabby strokes that you make at those bristles, the less you get kind of the long streaks of the paint. So just kind of practice a little bit on something before you go to the image that you've worked so hard to color up and make perfect. But that's about the effect that we're going to get. I'll bring my image back down and readjust my little mask here that I've made. And like I said, I'm not too worried about it being taped down there or on there exactly perfect. Get it lined up there. And now, hopefully you can still see this on the camera. And now we'll take make sure we dip the brush in the opaque white. And again, like I talked about before, we want to kind of make sure that we take just little short kind of stabs at it. And you'll notice as I'm doing this that I haven't done a lot of work on the rest of my coloring, because you know, you're kind of at the mercy of how that paint flicks off of there. And so, you know, I would recommend doing it, you know, just like this, just color just this sky part first, and do this flicking technique on it. In just a second I'll move my hands out of the way so you can kind of see what's down here. But this way I don't have a whole lot of time invested in the coloring yet. I don't have a whole lot of Copic ink on it, which I try to be somewhat frugal with because it's a little bit expensive. And I don't worry too much if I get a little bit of a kind of a streaky flick of paint on it, because you know, there are shooting stars and things like that. So anyway, that gives you kind of an idea. I'm going to move my hands out of the way so you can kind of see what I have here. And I'm going to move away my mask, and you can see those little snowy or starry little dots on the Copic color. A couple of things that I would suggest, after you do your Copic coloring, I would suggest that you let it dry, especially if you're using something more water-based like an acrylic paint that would have a tendency to maybe run when you put it on the wet Copic. And I would also suggest that you use it on a splat mat like I have here. They wipe up super easy and you don't have a mess on your workspace. And the last little tip for you is don't use a very expensive artist's brush for something like this. When I washed it, it's going to lay down a little bit better, but you can see it kind of really tears up the ends of this brush. So don't use your very favorite oil painting brush on a technique like this. So I hope you enjoy the new One Last Stop image that we've just added to the store, and I hope that you'll try this technique. It's real fun and gives a neat look to a night sky like this.